We've learned we can't just scream louder or more often. We have to be clearer, more human, and much more intentional about our asks.
Welcome to the Nonprofit Fundraising Exchange, a podcast from IPM Advancement. We believe strong nonprofits can change the world, and at IPM, our job is to make sure your organization is one of them. With each episode, our goal is to bring you insightful conversations with thought leaders from across the nonprofit sector. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, NPFX listeners. I'm your host, Russ Phaneuf. Joining me today is Jack Padovano, board chair for PC Project. And he's also the co-founder of IPM Advancement. And he retired last year, so I hardly ever get a chance to bother him anymore. And he's back today, so I'm going to bother him a lot because we're going to find out about PC Project, which supports those living with Pachyonychia congenita, a genetic skin condition so rare that most people, and even many doctors, have never even heard of the disease. I'm really excited to have this conversation because the topics we're going to discuss will be relevant to most nonprofits, not just those in the rare disease space. Things like how to cut through all that noise when your ask feels small compared to global crises or massive, well-funded organizations that are constantly hitting your donors with asks and really compelling messages. How to turn a board that is afraid of bothering your donors into active, enthusiastic fundraisers. And how a simple peer-to-peer campaign for PC Project became their most successful fundraiser in the organization's history, and lots more. So pay close attention. Jack's insights are a real masterclass in relationship-first fundraising. Whether you're a small shop or a large institution, I think you'll walk away with a clear reminder that donors don't just want to give, they want to feel like partners in the work that you do. So welcome, Jack.
Thank you, Russ. Nice to be here.
Excellent. Well, Jack, tell us a bit about PC Project and how you started and how you got involved with the organization.
You bet. So PC Project supports people living with a rare disease called Pachyonychia congenita, or PC for short. It's a rare genetic skin condition that causes extremely painful calluses on the bottoms of the feet, thicker nails, and often cysts. And for most patients, walking is extremely painful every day. And I should know, full disclosure, I've got PC myself. Mm-hmm. What makes, I think, PC Project unique is that we work directly with patients and families. We also partner closely with researchers and physicians. So our goal is pretty simple. It's to improve care today for patients and then push treatments forward toward a cure.
And just to reiterate for our listeners, PC Project is really in that vertical of rare diseases, right? How many people, again, around the world have PC?
Less than 10,000 people worldwide have PC. And we know through our registry that there are at least 3,000 documented cases. So we're just assuming that there are another, 8,000 cases lingering that people just don't know what it is at this point. So it's actually classified as an ultra rare disease.
Wow. Well, so what's interesting to me is that, even though it's a rare disease, you're still a nonprofit. And you still face a lot of the same challenges, and you have, on the flip side, a lot of the same opportunities that nonprofits have. So from your perspective, what's the most pressing challenge facing nonprofit fundraisers and leaders right now? And why do you think that challenge is so critical to address?
I think the biggest challenge I see in fundraising right now, both for PC Project and other organizations as well, people are just completely and utterly overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Unless you're living under a rock, everybody is asking for something.
Right.
Every cause feels urgent. Donors don't always know where to focus their time or money. And that's critical because when people feel overwhelmed, they don't stop caring, they stop engaging. So even generous, thoughtful donors can shut down if it's not clear why a cause matters or how their support can and will make a difference. At PC Project, we see this crop up quite often. We're introducing people to a rare disease they've never heard of.
Yeah.
Unless you have it, or
Right.
unless a family member knows about it. At the same time, they're being asked to respond to global crises, everything's going on in the news, dramatic appeals from much larger and well-heeled organizations. We've learned we can't just scream louder or more often. We have to be clearer, more human, and much more intentional about our asks.
Do you think there's a difference between how people are receiving that based on their level of giving? Like, do you see larger donors more receptive to what you're saying compared to smaller donors, or is kind of your audience all at the same level, kind of willing to engage you?
I think they're all at the same level, willing to engage, or more importantly, to disengage.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter from what I'm seeing, whether you're a $100,000 donor or a $100 a year donor. Unless you're intentional and human, all those things are appealing to folks regardless of their giving level. So we've seen even big donors disengage as much as the smaller ones too.
Yeah. So in light of all this, what do you think the biggest opportunity is for nonprofits like PC Project to grow and improve, and what might be some common mistakes that get in the way?
Yeah, I think the opportunity is that donors don't just want to give. They want to feel connected, like they're part of something.
Right.
So when fundraising feels personal and real, people respond. At PC Project, we saw this clearly through our peer-to-peer campaign, which we just did this summer, and it became the most successful fundraiser in our history. It worked because families shared their own stories and invited their own communities to support them. So it wasn't at all transactional. It was human. It was Jack Padovano going out to his peers, his friends, his family, talking about a disease that they may or may not even known that he had.
Yeah.
And asking them to support an organization that's trying to make his life better. And I think you said the biggest mistake. I see a lot of mistakes. We all make a lot of mistakes. The biggest mistake I see is organizations chasing the next tool or the next platform, instead of focusing on the relationship piece of it.
Right.
The nonprofits that do this well keep things very simple. They use clear stories, in our case, patient stories. They have a clear impact, and they treat donors like partners in the work, not just looking at them as wallets. And I just think that's an important piece and a different mindset that development people need to get into.
So as someone who's been involved with the organization for a long time, have you had to work with fellow board members and other folks who are on staff at the organization to help them kind of shift their mindset and get into a different way of thinking so that they could be maybe more receptive to kind of seeing things that way?
PC Project has an incredible executive director. Her name is Janice Schwartz, and she is exceptionally talented and has a unique ability to attract not only donors to our cause, but also physicians and scientists working to make treatments readily available, and eventually, funding projects through research to get us to a cure.
Yeah.
Her fundraising experience was very limited. When she first came came on as executive director, and her predecessor, Mary Schwartz, who started the organization, I think was in this pretty much the same boat, because Mary funded everything herself. Now that Janice took over, we needed to try to expand that fundraising base, and we're still working on doing that. But, teaching Jan and her staff, as well as board members who, quite frankly, are suspect of fundraising.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I don't want to bother our donors or our supporters too much, because you've heard it all before.
Yeah.
We don't want to make them angry. What's the right cadence of when you go out and make asks? How often should we be sending newsletters? All those kinds of questions. And I think they're all thoughtful questions coming from a good place.
Yeah.
But there are also some best practices that have to be applied.
Sure.
And so, sure, there's a lot of teaching, there's a lot of arm twisting, there's a lot of, no, we need to do it this way sort of thing. And also lots of trial and error, I think, too.
Yeah. So Jack, tell me a little bit more about the peer-to-peer campaign, because I know it's something that PC Project dabbled in before this past year, but you really caught your stride in it this past campaign.
Yeah. So, in the past, before we did the peer-to-peer campaigns, most of our fundraising dollars came through patients.
Yeah.
And because, but then once we started realizing that we're really not going to move the needle very much because it's an ultra rare disease, we really needed to expand the donor audience beyond just the patients. And each patient not only has family, but they also have friends that know about them and their struggles and the disease that they have, and want to help. And so we basically developed a tool, the peer-to-peer tool, which obviously open to any nonprofit, but it gave our current donors a very focused way of achieving that objective, which is, one, create your own story, create your own message that you want to share with friends and family. Send that message via email or social media, or however you want to do it. We actually had a couple that just made phone calls, didn't even bother with anything in writing, and then basically sent out those messages. And then we had a platform that recorded all of the donations that came in, and from these various people. And we set it up so it was sort of a contest of sorts. So we had, here are the top 5 fundraisers, and here's how much they've raised from their friends and family and that sort of thing. And I honestly, when we did it for the very first time this summer, I thought that we would get maybe 2 or 3 folks to do it. Other organizations that I talked to about their peer-to-peer campaign said, Jack, you're lucky if you get 5 the first time.
Yeah.
We got almost 30 people
Wow.
doing those campaigns. And it was the largest fundraiser we've ever done. Now, it did help that we had a match, but, that was just sort of frosting on the cake. The fact that 30 people were willing to do it, tell their story, share it with friends and family, was very motivating.
Yeah. And you've had a match before, so that was kind of a control, actually, right? So why do you think the P2P fundraising campaign did so well in terms of the fundraisers running their own campaigns?
It goes back to this whole notion of being human. So for me, telling my story, describing the experience of what it's like to live with this pain day in and day out, to the level that I did in my particular message, was new to probably 80% of the people that got my message.
Yeah.
And so they were a little bit shocked that I live with this pain and that I hide it so well. They love me, or at least like me, enough to say, hey, I don't want Jack to have to deal with this. So let me make a contribution to this organization on behalf of Jack, on behalf of a human,
Yeah. Right.
because he personalized it. They didn't have any interest or affinity to PC Project at all before I told them I had this rare disease
Yeah.
and gave them a mechanism to help. So I think two things. One, the reason we got 30 people to respond so quickly is because it told me that people were looking for a way to help PC Project. We're looking for a way to be involved, and then they liked the human aspect of it, being able to tell their own story.
Yeah.
So I think that's the reason why I was so successful.
So, thinking about building on that success for the next time you have a campaign, how did PC Project wrap back around with those donors to make them feel good about their donation?
So there is a mechanism. There are a lot of peer-to-peer platforms, and I'm not going to recommend any right now. But if people Google it, they'll see them. They all have a mechanism that allows you to send a personal message to each and every individual that contributed via your own campaign.
Okay.
So that's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, we had each board member was given a list of people that donated, and they went out and thanked everybody that gave, whether it was $10 or whether it was $5,000. And we did get some sizable contributions as a result. And so either through email or through picking up the phone and dialing people, I know I myself called at least 15 people thanking them. And, it's amazing because, just thanking somebody on the phone, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes a huge difference.
It makes a huge difference. And so, here's the board guy. He's the board chair. He's calling me. He's probably going to ask me for money.
Right. Right.
Type of
and
thing.
then unexpectedly,
when
you get a thank you.
Yeah. I mean, so it really did make a difference. So, but at PC Project, we're very good about thanking people. We're very good about letting them know that how their money is being used and why it's so important and that sort of thing. And that really comes from our executive director, who is relentless about relationship building and making sure that she's intentional and reaching out to the right people when they make a contribution. And then even if it's not a financial contribution, it's also important to recognize volunteers and people that are just supporting the organization, whether they're researchers or physicians or patients.
And then how about those folks who were involved in that peer-to-peer fundraising, those fundraisers who were out there? Was there any special recognition for them?
Yes. So they all got personally thanked by Jan for running the campaigns. I chimed in and tried to donate to each of the 30 myself.
Nice.
So that it kind of opened up a relationship between us and in a way for me to not only say, hey, I'm supporting what you're doing.
Yeah, but you're stacking onto their campaigns as well, right?
Exactly. And thanking them for just outright doing the campaign.
Yeah,
because you have to think, these 30 people were very brave.
Right.
Because a lot of folks don't like to talk about this disease.
Yeah.
Say they have it.
Yeah.
Nobody likes to say that they're limited in any way, shape, or form, let alone put it in writing and then ask others to sort of contribute to making this go away.
Right.
So there are a lot of people that outright flat out said, there's no way I can do this. because they weren't mentally ready to do it. I'm hoping, and as we do the next, we're going to do this annually, and I'm hoping that after the second campaign and the third campaign, people see that it's not that bad. That coming out with this disease, coming out as having this disease is easier because there are people around you that have it and that are going to support you through whatever it is that you're going to face.
Oh, what a tremendous way to break down walls.
You bet.
So what do you think in the current environment, what do you think is a hard truth that nonprofit leaders need to face if they want to see really meaningful results?
It's a good question. The hard truth is when fundraising feels stressful, or even maybe unpredictable is a better word. It's usually not the donors. It's usually us. Many nonprofits try to do too much. Leaders don't want to say no to programs or ideas, even when there's no clear way to fund them.
Yeah.
And so that lack of focus, as in any business, creates confusion, and then donors feel it. They see it, they're a part of it, don't forget. And at PC Project, once we got clear about what we're funding, research, care, and community, and stopped chasing everything else, fundraising became more focused and less exhausting and less stressful for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's almost like if you had a company and you kept releasing new products and those products really didn't have much fanfare, or you announced them and you didn't really put a whole lot behind them and they kind of fluttered and failed, how would your customers think about that?
Yeah.
And what kind of face would that put on the company? And I think that's that's one way to think about it for folks who are listening. That focus and that ability for donors to kind of see that you're really locked in and you're really aligned with your mission and your work is really important, because they're investing, right? They're investing in your work, and they do, to some extent or to a large extent, expect a return on their investment. They want to feel like their money is being well spent.
You bet. And when leaders finally face it, everything gets clearer.
Yeah.
Messaging, priorities, donor confidence, their teams feel more aligned.
Yeah, yeah. And it feels better to work at the organization, right? And that's one of the things that I think we've seen a lot of, especially in annual giving. People get burnt out. And when you can feel good about the work that you're doing, you're going to want to stay in your position. You're going to want to continue to build your program. And that's a really good feeling if you can feel good about your job and your work.
You bet. And then that translates to giving. For PC Project, clarity changed everything. Once we focused our message and our fundraising priorities, not only did engagement increase, but fundraising fell in line too. And it felt far more manageable, and our dollars increased.
So if you could give just one piece of lasting fundraising advice for the next generation of nonprofit leaders to overcome some of the challenges we talked about today, or to seize the opportunities that we've talked about today, what would it be and why?
My advice would be very simple. Know where you're going before you ask people to pay for it. Fundraising works best when it follows a clear plan, when donors understand the goal, the timeline, the impact. Giving feels more purposeful instead of pressured. We built the PC Project 2026 plan this way. Had very clear priorities outlined first, and then fundraising was second. And it made everything much more focused. Easy to say, I know. And we didn't do it right the first time out. We learned that by doing it the wrong way, raising for things that weren't clearly prioritized and wondering why it didn't work. or why it felt so hard.
Yeah.
But once strategy led, fundraising followed.
Yeah. So I'd like to close with something forward looking. I'd like to ask what gives you the most hope right now about the future of fundraising and philanthropy?
I think it's that fundraising is becoming more human again.
Yeah.
I see a lot more storytelling and organizations less about the numbers and more about the people.
Yeah.
I see more honesty in the sector about burnout and sustainability and what actually works. I see donors, particular PC project, wanting deeper involvement, whether it's through volunteering or taking an action on behalf of the organization, not just transactional relationships. So, at PC projects, when families share their stories, their real stories, whether it's through peer-to-peer campaigns or newsletters or Rare Disease Day, that's in February, people show up. Not because they feel pressured, but because they feel connected. So that the human side gives me hope.
Yeah, I think that's such a huge part of it. And I think coming out of the pandemic, there is that feeling that we all want to be reconnected and we want to feel like we're re-engaging with the world and each other. And yeah, that's a great place to end it. So, Jack, thanks so much. This was a great conversation.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.
Jack Padovano, board chair for PC Project, co-founder of IPM Advancement, and my friend. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and expertise with our listeners. For those of you who might like to continue the conversation with Jack, we'll include links for how to connect with him in the show notes. Thank you to our producer, Curtis Schmidt. And listeners, thanks so much for joining us again. Reach out on any of our social media and let us know how you liked this episode. We'll see you next time on the Nonprofit Fundraising Exchange.
That concludes this episode of the Nonprofit Fundraising Exchange. If you'd like to learn more about any of today's guests or resources, we'll include links in the show notes. If you like our podcast, please help spread the word. First, subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite app so you always know when a new episode is released. Second, forward episodes you like to friends and colleagues or post them on social media. Word of mouth is one of the best ways you can help share these conversations with more nonprofit professionals like yourself. And if you use Apple Podcasts or Audible, please leave us a review. Positive reviews are how many listeners find us, and they also help us understand what you like most about NPFX. Finally, we'd love to hear your suggestions. If there's a challenge you're facing, a question you have, or a voice you think the nonprofit sector needs to hear, send an email with the subject heading NPFX suggestion to contact@ipmadvancement.com. The Nonprofit Fundraising Exchange is just that, an exchange, and we're grateful that you're part of it. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.